I've heard that you've been caring about what unimportant people think, and that's not really okay, is it? Hi guys, my name's Hiba and welcome back to my channel if you're not new, and if you are new, thank you for joining. I'm all about fearless self-expression and self-growth. What people think is a story that they create in their head. It's not actually reality. Every experience that we have, the people that we think about, are based on our own past, PTSDs, prejudices, experiences, and it's not reality. Someone may have been surrounded by the nicest, most loving men in the world, and then someone else might have been mistreated by men their whole life, and they will have completely different perspectives of how men are on this earth. Lots of people have been messaging me about this recently. It's been a common theme, so I really wanted to get into it and talk to you guys about it. I have my professional camera today, finally, in an attempt to make my videos better quality, but my microphone doesn't work with the camera, so I feel like the sound isn't going to be good. I'm hoping it will be okay though, fingers crossed. So I have a few friends that have been speaking to me about this recently. One of my friends met up with me for lunch, and she's someone that is seen as quote-unquote successful in her industry. I don't really like using the word successful because it kind of separates people. It's like, oh, that's a successful person. That's not a successful person. So it's more just someone that has achieved really great things and really high goals of hers in the industry that she's in. So she said to me, oh, Hiba, I feel like people are using me. And she is someone who I've seen people use her. I've actually seen it. There's big influencers that have used her, and obviously I'm not going to get into too much detail. And she was talking to me about how she finds it really hard to trust people. And the advice that I always give my friend is that you need to categorize people. Which people are worth your energy and which people are not. So this person that has used her recently that she was talking to me about, actually there was a way to go about the situation. I think that you're allowed to be annoyed for a day, a few days, but try not to let it get longer than a few days, because then your brain starts to program in this pattern. Your brain starts to then kind of put this experience with this specific person like embedded into your brain, and it will resurface as some sort of PTSD in a few days, weeks, months and years. But have you noticed that there's certain experiences you have with certain people where you just decided not to take it as seriously, and you kind of forget those experiences? You probably can't even think about those experiences. That person that might have sworn at you when they were driving and you just decided that you were in a good mood that day and didn't focus on it. But then if you were in a bad mood that day, you probably still remember that really bad day. So it's all about how we kind of adapt our brains to the environment and the situation. So with this specific girl that used my friend, I feel like it was weird in a sense that it could have affected my friend's business, but my friend should know by now that of all the years of people using her and people trying to get things out of her, they haven't succeeded and achieved what they wanted. So all you can do is learn from these experiences and get a feedback loop and say, okay, this person's bad, I must stay away from them. And block them off everything if you must. Block them off everything. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It can be like a discreet blocking. It could be like a wait a month and then block them. But you have to just take practical actions in order to deal with these certain unimportant people that may feel like a threat in the moment, but we've got through worse things in our lives. Come on guys, we really have, all of us. We've met nastier people, we've dealt with more annoying situations. The only times where you have to deal with these situations head on is if it ends up a lawsuit. Then obviously that's a different thing. When something gets so bad, then you have to have your brain on it and you have to focus on it. I get it, okay? That's why I always say preserve your mind and your energy for the things that need focus in that moment. I know a situation of someone who was really upset about someone being rude to her, but I knew that the person being rude to her was because he was attracted to her. But from her perspective, when she's just been sworn at by this man, she's just feeling attacked. But I could see from an outsider's calmer perspective that actually this guy just was really attracted to her and knew that she wasn't interested. I mean, she's married with a child, and that's the reason why he acted that way. So we end up catastrophizing when we get stuck in our head. So it's really important to take a step back, take some deep breaths, and really assess the situation and decide if you're being realistic or if you're catastrophizing. And don't feel bad about yourself if you do catastrophize, because we all need those moments where we overthink. I actually have a therapist where I vent all of this overthinking to them, and they help me get through it, and for me it helps diffuse the situation faster. and I use BetterHelp. I know that a lot of people don't like say bad things about BetterHelp, but for me, BetterHelp is the perfect solution when you don't have a lot of money to spend on therapy, and you can just use that, and it's cheaper, much cheaper. So anyway, I'm not sponsored. I can't wait till I get sponsored by brands, by the way. That would be so cool. It's gonna happen, guys. It's gonna happen. I know it is. I'm just gonna keep going. Next up is another friend who is, well, I know lots of friends who are upset in their workplace, and I think that a lot of my fear of having a job is that cattiness in the workplace. I remember how I dealt with the workplace when I was a fashion stylist, because I've been running businesses most of my life, but I was a fashion stylist for 3 years, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, but there was a lot of cattiness with certain groups. So I dealt with the situation, I don't know if other people deal with it like this, but I was able to avoid the people, basically. Because I was a menswear stylist, and then there were women's wear stylists, so I just stayed away from the women's wear stylists because they were a bigger group, and I found that they indulged in bitchiness. So I just stayed away from that because I knew that if they were bitching and gossiping and indulging, emphasis on the word indulge, because I find that it is an indulgence. It's almost like when you eat junk food, when you gossip, when you have like a heavy gossip session. It doesn't really benefit your life. It's just like a little bit of a, I think I'm gonna do this. And sometimes you feel good about it and sometimes you don't. So I would just sit on my own in my lunch breaks, but then I kind of didn't want them to see me sit on my own because then it makes it to a bigger deal. So I would go out and sit on like a park bench and eat, but then it would rain. So I would like maybe have to get a coffee from a coffee shop and then just eat my packed lunch or my coffee in a coffee shop when it was raining. So that's a way that you deal with those situations, because what it does is it separates you from them emotionally. It means you see them at the workplace, but you don't spend any extracurricular time with those people. So it's just kind of about looking at these situations, and your own individual situation needs to be adapted accordingly, and you just have to take a step back and think, what are practical solutions in the workplace that I can fix this situation? So another one of my friends in her work, her new job, she's in a WhatsApp group with her work people. That WhatsApp group isn't for work, it's just for fun, but they added her to it. And I'm just like, you're gonna have to mute that. I mean, ideally she should remove herself from the group, but that actually is gonna create a bigger issue, isn't it? So I think muting and archiving the chat, and then maybe just sending a message saying, guys, I'm not checking WhatsApps that often, I'm only checking for work. Message me privately if you need to contact me. Just say it in a formal way. That is probably the way to deal with a situation like that. In conclusion, when you're in a working environment and you get really emotional and you feel like people are being catty or mean, try and emotionally detach through spending less time with them. And if you do have to spend time with them, try and keep it as formal as possible. But this is kind of a deeper conversation. It probably needs a whole video on its own, to be honest, because there's so many different facets. Please leave comments in the comment section and let me know if you want any more ideas of how to deal with your workplace, because I have lots of ideas, okay? Another thing for me is I get quite lonely because I moved to a new country, so I speak to my therapist about this, and I'm just like, who are my really good friends? And I think about like my sister, I think about my friend Tanya, and I'm like, I need to book FaceTimes with my London peeps, my close friends, and hopefully they have time for me. But usually, you know, we figure it out. As being in our 30s, life gets really busy, and just logging in time with the people that do care about you. And if you feel like people don't care about you, that's what I kind of talk about also on this channel. I do a lot of DIYs. A massive part of why I do DIYs is because you feel a sense of achievement from learning a new skill, from making a product, and also potentially selling it and starting your own business. All those times I felt lonely and felt like people disappointed me, I actually put that into my art, as you can see here, and put it into running my Etsy shop and my subscription box company and my fashion brand. Because ultimately, all we really have is ourselves. And if you're not in a situation where you're married to the love of your life, or your parents are really reliable, or your friends are reliable, all we really do have is ourselves. And that can seem sad, but it also can seem really exciting to build that bestie relationship with ourselves, but also not to be a lone wolf. It's about a balance, and I think life is always a balance. It's like a little dance, a bit of back, a bit of forth, a bit of shimmy, a bit of rolling. You know, life is a bit of like a wave and a dance where we try and be clever and kind of pay more attention to the positive people and the positive things, but also remember we can tap back into being friends with ourselves or making friends online. You guys can always message me or comment and we can have a chit chat. If you're feeling down, I'm here for you. I feel like every video that I make could be talked about for hours and hours. So I'm gonna wrap this up very soon, but I have a good final one. So there are certain people, whether they're people, toxic people from your past that you let back in, or certain people that just kind of see what your weaknesses are. Usually it's narcissistic people. I don't always like labeling narcissism because it's a big spectrum, but the people that have that narcissistic traits of spotting your weaknesses and trying to get you down through that. So there's a guy that I know who was my ex next door neighbor and we were friends and whatever, and he really tried to get me down a month ago because I went back to London, and he always ends up being my neighbor or living in the same area as me, so we always come across each other, we always bump into each other. Don't know why the universe does this. I feel like it's a test from the universe to see that if I'm gonna keep hanging out with him. But he has this weird behavior where he's super charming and super fun, but then when he switches, he tries to like go for the jugular. If he's annoyed at you, he will think of what will upset you and try and put you down. So he'll be like, he'll say something like to me, how are you acting like that at your big age? And then he's acting like, because of my age, I can't say that. And it's like, well, I'm confident in myself to know that I can use whatever language I want because he doesn't hold the rule book of life and of God and of the universe, okay? I can say the word ick if I want, even if I'm 68.9 years old, I don't care. And he kept jabbing and jabbing and jabbing, and he was like trying to pick on my age because he's younger than me and trying to act like I was pretentious because a creepy man was talking to me in a pub that we were at, and I was creeped out by the man, but he said that I was pretentious because I was dismissing the man. If a man is in your face, like a random stranger man is in your face going blah, 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 and you don't want to talk to them, you have a right to not talk to them. But he was acting like I was pretentious, and I know that that is an insecurity of his. Maybe because he's insecure with his financial situation, he wanted to put me down or something like that. So the old Hibber, the unhealed Hibber, the Hibber that used to let people, unimportant people, get me down, would have let that destroy me. I would have been like, oh my gosh, I need to be a bit more polite to everyone, including weirdo men that talk to me. Oh my gosh, I'm too old to use the word ick. Heavens forbid, I'm never going to use that word again. Like, I don't know, I would have catastrophized, I would have spoken to my therapist about it, I might have shed a tear, and I was like, lol, dude, you're trying your best, but I have the blockers on because I've done so much self-work and so much work in knowing who I am and how good I am as a human. Just knowing the goodness that I am means that I know that I wasn't an unkind person to this random stranger that came up to me. So as I say in every video, focus on your health, focus on creation, focus on maybe starting a little business, focus on making money if you want to do that. Focus on your skincare routine, on the good people in your life, on healthy content, and then in the future you'll realize when you do come across these situations, when people try and get you down, when people try and hit your weaknesses, you're like, oh my gosh, that didn't affect me. Hallelujah. Seek refuge in knowing that there is a world where we can get ourselves stronger and stronger every day, year, week, and month to deal with these situations better and better and not let them get us down as much, and then you live a much more peaceful life. And that is the magic of me being in my 30s, because I feel like every day, month, week, and year, it's making me stronger, and I'm feeling that peace, I'm feeling that groundedness, I'm feeling this strength in knowing who I am and sticking to that. But not stubbornness, obviously. I want to be open-minded, but be careful when people give you advice or tell you about yourself, because it's a prejudice based on their own mind. Because every single person you ask, for the most part, will give you a different response. A pretentious person might say, no, you're not pretentious, like, whatever, you don't have to talk to everyone. A man who is like annoyed at me might say, oh, you're so up yourself for not talking to that creepy man. Everyone has a different opinion. I guess if like maybe the situations where you maybe have to think about this stuff is if every single person in your life is telling you that you need to sort out your anger, maybe it might be beneficial to like see a therapist and stuff like that. But those are like isolated situations that you really need to look at with time and thought and in a safe space, whether it's a therapist or someone that you truly trust. I hope this video helps you to recognize that in certain situations where people are nasty to you, there is a world and there is a place where it won't affect you so badly, and that you can get over it very quickly, whether it's an hour later, 2 hours later, 5 hours later, or a day later. Please be sure to subscribe, follow, like, ring the bell, I don't know what it is. Follow me on Instagram, because that would be showing support for me making these videos if you like it, and then I can make more and build this community. As usual, sending you love, light,